Today's video deals with hook your readers on page 1. This is one of the most important tasks in writing any book. You have to gain immediate interest from your readers or they're just going to flip by. So let's examine how we can hook those readers. When you start your book, understand that those first 15 pages have to have enough information to really explain quickly the premise of your story. But more importantly, there has to be action. There has to be a setting that grabs the reader so tightly that they want to read further. They want to read the next 5 and the next 5 pages and then finish chapter 1. So think about it. That reader wants to be informed, but not to the point of bored with background information. That's called exposition. You're building the story. Well, in the beginning, the building is your action sequence. And let's talk about that. Their curiosity will drive them to read more if it's there. If you get that information that makes them curious about the people you're introducing or the things you're introducing, because you're going to bring in your primary character, maybe a supporting character or two. You're going to set up what's happening. In other words, you're giving them the setting of the events. And then you're going to say, here is what is going on with my character. The example I will give you is this. In the past, I have written a lot of exposition in the beginning. Now, seasoned, well-known, and published authors have that right. They have the trust of readers to do that background work or that, some people call world building. I call it exposition. I'm not that writer yet. I am, like you more than likely, a relatively inexperienced and newer self-published author. I have to really explode at that reader. I have to grab him. As we said, you've got to hook that reader on page 1. Now, that reader is going to want you to give him all this information and move him to an emotional part of your book. Why does he care about your character? Why does he even know about your supporting character? What time frame? What period? What are the settings we're talking about? And then the next thing is, what event are we in at that very moment? If we can capture those things within 10, 12, 15 pages, we have a much better chance of then starting to explain some of the background, some of the history, or some of the other things that are important to this character or these people in this book. It's a very difficult thing to do, but it's so important. You have to work on it until you know that it's right. You've heard me in other videos talk about the importance of rewrites, revisions, and your own self-edit. When you're working on the opening of your book, those rules and that discipline are the most important ways you can do this. And it's the most important execution of that discipline you'll do in the entire book. You can write a great book, a fantastic book that begins in chapter 3 or chapter 2, and very few people are going to read it. People want to be entertained and informed immediately. They do not want to wait around. In this book, the working title being Dying for Dixie, our main character is the focus of the first 16 pages. He is in the battle, and I open it up with Josh Truscott was lying on his back on the damp grass in a field. I'm paraphrasing, of course. It goes on to have him start coming out of some sort of wound, some sort of stupor that some action during this battle has put him in. As he's doing this, he is confused. He doesn't understand, and he's worried. He is a first lieutenant in charge of a 50-man platoon. He is concerned that he has failed his men, lost the battle, and maybe gotten a lot of his troops killed. He's struck immediately by the horror of the battle as he begins to make sure that he's okay, and he turns and he sees a mutilated corpse of a soldier who stepped in front of him and took the brunt of an artillery shell that surely would have killed him. And that's what is written in that story. In my mind, that is a curiosity seeking and bringing thing. I think it brings the reader to seek more of the story, but it also brings him enough information that he's like, wow, this is a lot of action for me to take over. What's happening? And from there, I begin to write the length of that battle. And I start to throw in some of the things that are, I believe, interesting to readers. How that setting was just moments before, and how it was during the battle to the best of his recollection. And then put that absolute shock value into your reader's mind about what war really is. And in many Confederate battles, it was a horribly bloody display of death. I mean, it killed thousands of men in frontal charges, and infantry attacking dug-in artillery positions. You don't win very many of those quickly. You have to really just wear the enemy down and pick them off and make very slow charges and show slow progress. In this book, the first segment here takes the reader with that primary character into his emotional state of, I really don't remember what I did. And then he says, I remembered none of my military tactics. I don't think I executed this battle at all. As he begins to come around, his hearing returns. He's able to see better. His jacket is smoldering. He fears all of a sudden he's been shot. So he immediately starts checking himself, and he has a small wound on his side, but nothing serious. He tries his best to remember, but it's blocked out. It's not there right now. Then in this story, his troops come back to him, and they find him as he's pulled himself up against a small tree, and they get him up off the ground, and they're checking him and making sure he's all right. Then one of our primary characters, his brother, is sergeant in his platoon, and we'll explain how that was developed as we get to more exhibition detail later on, comes up and says, are you all right? And the lieutenant, the younger brother's immediate thought is, oh my God, I never even remembered my brother during this battle. I didn't even think about him. Thank God he's all right. And the story moves from there. And as that story in those first 15 pages begins to offer us opportunities to give more detail, details of the family, details of the brother, the commanding officer, what exactly is going on, because this story is about the Alabama 15th Regiment. And so far, we've not mentioned that regiment at all, but it's coming. Because after the battle, as they start assessing losses, an important fact comes to life, and it impacts the main character, Joshua Truscott, and his brother, Dan Truscott, immediately. And it puts them in a very different and somewhat tougher position than they were in even minutes before. I believe this opening is strong. Now, let me tell you my challenge. And ask yourself if this is a challenge for you. As I reread this first segment yesterday, I really was pleased with the opening, pleased with that action. And then what I discovered, I went away from the action and went full tilt into exposition. Of the 30 pages in chapter 1, only about 15 or 16 really are relevant to the hook, to the grabbing of that reader. I got myself off in the weeds. I started writing about the family and about economic situations and how they got their land and how they got their money and why they were fighting for the South, even though they weren't strong supporters of slavery. I got myself off track with miscellaneous, useless at that point details. Have you ever had that happen? Do you ever go back and look at some of the things you've written and said, how did I get here? I do that all the time because that's the way. When I free write, my mind starts spewing out these scenarios and these sentences and these paragraphs, and I just write them. So the challenge for me is to go back and say, okay, that's good information, but boy, is it in the wrong place. Now you've got to start doing the work of writing. You've gotten some words, and some of them in sentences and paragraphs, that may be really good. They may be excellent, but they may also, as I said, be in the exact wrong place. So over the course of this next week, I'm going to go back and try to write a corrected chapter 1. Clean up some of this exposition, put some of it there because it's necessary, and hopefully have a chapter begin with enough pages to grab, to hook our readers, because we know that's important. Then finish that chapter in a way that they want to stay after that immediate blast of curiosity arousing and excitement to grab them. Write that chapter so they stay with me. If I do that, if I correct those errors, I will probably give myself an opportunity to take that reader with me, with us as we write this book, into chapter 2. So finishing chapter 1, the goal is to give ourselves an opportunity to write a great chapter 2. Really tall task and really hard things to do, but we can continue to work on them. Let me tell you, I've published 7 books, and it's still a challenge to get the first chapter down to a point where you feel like you've got it in the right place and you can move. I hope you'll come back and join us next week. I hope to have a video up on Monday afternoon or Tuesday morning at the latest. And the subject of next week's video will be key battles and their settings that our characters are going to participate in. That's a really important aspect of the book, as we've now got to start building the body of the book and determining the pacing of the book. We've got to introduce new characters and then come back and add more of that important descriptive information to make the characters truly come alive as we write them. The Alabama 15th was involved in a long list of very key Civil War fights, and we'll try to make sure that we select the ones that help our story grow and develop. One thing I would like for you as the viewers of this video to do is this. If any of the conversation we've had this morning really exposes things that you struggle with, things that you go through personally, I would love for you to tell me about that experience. And if you've come up with solutions to those experiences, please share them. Maybe they will help me in the final writing of this book as well. Until we get back together, I hope you all have a great week. Take care of yourself. Go out, as I always say, and have some fun with your friends and family. That's a really important part of your week. So have a great one. We will talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.